Directed by Forrest, Brent and Stacey Peterson, we are talking Paranormal Highway from 2017. Stacey Peterson actually has a role in the movie as well. So this is a found footage movie about a, well, paranormal highway. Or is it? We'll talk about it. What's the story? Well, it focuses on a debate team that are going from their school to the kind of the national championships along this highway, I guess, in America. And when they are there, their bus seems to hit something at some point. And they seem to be attacked by some type of entity, outside creature, or creatures. And one by one, these kids are taken. What will happen? You will have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss what I think works in this movie's favour. So this has a larger cast than normal for a found footage movie, I would say, because we've got a whole debate team, plus the driver, plus the kind of the coaches and the documentarian, as they are making a documentary for their school, I think. So we do have quite a large cast, which is a little unusual, so that gives it somewhat of a point of difference. One aspect that I did like about this movie is the fact that this group of people are primarily a debate team. We do get a short scene, albeit it is a short scene, of these people trying to use their intellect and debate the most logical reason and what these things are outside, what is attacking them. So I thought that lent, you know, what does this movie have as a kind of unique selling point? Well, it has what these kind of kids are doing. They're a debate team, so they are using that to try and figure out what it is. Now, this scene doesn't last very long. I'd actually wish it had gone on a little longer, to be honest with you. And we saw them using their skills that they have learned to try and narrow down what is happening. But at least there is this, albeit short scene, about them kind of doing that. The film is very ambiguous about what is happening. So there is a sense of mystery. This, of course, is a double-edged sword, which we will discuss the other side of that in a minute. But yeah, there's a sense of mystery about what's happening. We are as in the dark about what is going on than our characters. Now, with found footage movies, I think you can get away with that to a certain degree, because it is found footage by its own logic. We don't have the setup about what is kind of going on, because we're only seeing it from the point of view of our victims who are filming it at that moment. So I maybe am a little forgiving with that to a certain degree, because it kind of goes into that style of kind of found footage movie. And there's a couple of okay sort of stunts in here. What these things are doing, whatever they are, they're sort of effectively sucking these kids out through the windows, through the roof, and we do see some sort of quite violent scenes where these kids are kind of getting dragged out and going into the kind of the black void outside where they are being kept. So there's a couple of sequences where I thought, for, you know, obviously a lower budget movie, looked okay in regards to that sort of set, kind of sort of small little set pieces every so often. We get a variety of different sort of personalities. I actually kind of quite liked the movie is interspersed with little like pre-recorded introductions from the debate team that obviously meant to have been used in this kind of debate documentary and things like that. So they are kind of interspliced, so we get a little bit of sort of backstory with each of the kind of the characters. So it gives it breaks it up a little bit and kind of gives you the idea. Obviously, this is a class of people, all of whom are achievers, they're intelligent and things like that. What doesn't work in this movie? Okay, so it's very unclear what is happening. Now, I think if you are a fan of the found footage genre, good found footage movies plant ways into telling you what's actually kind of going on. They're all kind of introduced little nuggets here and there, drop clues about what is happening. So at the end of the movie, if you're having paid attention, you can kind of piece more or less what's been going on. This one, there's nothing like that. You have no idea what's actually happening, which I think ultimately will become very frustrating for anyone who's watching this movie, because you have no idea. For a start, you don't even know if it's the highway or the bus, because they're riding in like an older bus, and it's presented like this bus is haunted. So even before they get to this lonely highway, we see from the cameras that are on the bus that looks like there's some sort of poltergeist on board. Things are kind of moving around. They're at like a roadside eatery, and things are moving around on the bus on their own, and we see it from the kind of the security cameras footage, which leads us to believe that there's a paranormal entity within the bus. But later on, there seems to be these creatures that we should only ever see very briefly once, that look like stingrays that are outside. So, are the two things related? What's actually kind of going on? Is it the bus, or is it the highway? We don't know. What are these creatures? We don't know. It's led to believe that these creatures are actually attacking the surrounding areas as well, but we're given no context whatsoever. So we really have no idea about what it is that's actually happening. We don't know what these things are trying to do. We're presuming they're just eating them, but at some stage we see some of the kids seem to be in somewhat of a trance. No context. It's just completely just like, that'll be a cool scene, let's do that. That's kind of what it feels like. What else can we say? With found footage, one of the conceits here is that you are immersed into the world that this movie is trying to create. We know that it's not real footage, but we like to kind of believe the illusion for the time we're watching the movie. But this movie has a number of things that takes you out of that. I have to say, I think the acting from some of the cast is on the weaker side. There is some wooden acting, and I think that doesn't help. There are some instances where I thought the acting was fine, but there are some sequences where certain characters do struggle, and they do not come across as like the genuine characters. They seem they're really struggling with the kind of the acting side of stuff. So the acting is at best a mixed bag. Secondly, the way this movie is presented to us, this is, with the found footage, you are meant to believe, the footage has been found and you're watching it and etc. But this one has been edited, and they've made two kind of, I presume, glaring errors with it. There's certain sequences where it sort of flashes forward, and you'll see like a black and white scene that sort of, it's like almost like a premonition of a scene that's going to happen later on in the movie. And it doesn't make sense in regards to the conceit of a found footage movie. You're watching like a scene that's happening, going to be happening sort of later on in the movie, in the context of a found footage film. Doesn't make sense. We also have some footage with these police that we presume are investigating it, and they're sort of talking into the camera, and it really feels like reshoots. It feels so disconnected from the story as the main. It almost feels like it's trying to have this B storyline. So we have to think, why is that? So it seems to me that if I had to guess, and this is my speculation, the filmmakers thought this movie either doesn't make sense, or it needs other scenes to break it up, or it's monotonous. So we have to film these scenes with these sort of two cops talking to the camera to try and either add context or break up the kind of the story that it's sort of showing. But it doesn't work. I feel that actually just makes the movie more confusing, because it almost has like, paints that there's this kind of like government conspiracy. So we're adding poltergeist, strange creatures, government conspiracy, more things to this kind of this movie that none of which are resolved. So it doesn't help, and these flash forwards could have just been taken out. The other reason they may have just wanted to pad out the runtime. Whatever the reason, these things don't really work. There's a couple of other instances as well where we seem to have music playing, and then we have, you might have music in the ambient atmosphere, someone playing it, but when it edits to different scenes with different people's camera, the music is continuing to play, which doesn't make sense. There's a variety of things here that just don't work in the context of a found footage movie. Now, I mentioned this movie does have a large cast. Now, one of the downsides of this is when we get people panicking and screaming, it's like a wall of noise, because all we hear is bah! Where these people are shouting, screaming, arguing. So it's like, I can't understand what's happening, that you're not picking up any dialogue. You're just hearing this wall of noise and people like running around, and it's just, this, again, it needs to have tighter direction. You need to go right around these problems and things like that. And this is the danger of having such a large cast. Yeah, in reality, I can probably concede that this probably would happen. You would have lots of people panicking and stuff. But in the context of a film, we just don't know what's going on. It doesn't help that this movie is so vague anyway. We have loads of sequences where people are just kind of talking over each other. So it's a really poorly constructed movie on a kind of a basis, a thought basis. You know, the way it's constructed, the way it's kind of put together, it just hasn't been thought through enough. And this movie really doesn't have any answers at all. It really is just a kind of a case of weird things are happening, we've captured some of it on screen, just got to accept it. Again, you might argue that could well be the case if this was, you know, if you had genuine paranormal encounter, you might not know necessarily what's going on. But in the context of a movie, I think it should give you at least some idea, or at least not present so many different options that you just have no idea. You know, is it just some type of cryptid out there, some type of creature? We don't need the government conspiracy, or we don't need the poltergeist kind of situation. You know, it's all this kind of white slime all over the place, or this ectoplasm, whatever it is, and this kind of hints that it's a larger thing that's kind of going on. It just has too many tongs in the fire, ultimately. So this movie is a bit of a mess. There's one or two things that if you're a found footage hardcore fan, you might like. I think, oh, do you know what? There's some acceptable things here and there. They didn't make the most of the fact that they're a debate team. I thought that scene could have actually been a little more interesting, where they use their intellect to kind of narrow down what it is that's kind of going on. And yeah, you get one very, very kind of little tiny scene about where we possibly see something, but it's actually quite far away, and we never really get a good look at it. So it's a little frustrating. This one I'll give it a 3 out of 10. I gotta say, I think its negatives far outweigh the positives. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.